wonderful world. That was beautiful. 1993 was a very good year. It was the year of the big out west trip for our family. A trip to the national parks, a trip of exactly 17 days and 5,132 miles, but who's counting? A trip in a Chevy conversion van, a trip outfitted with a cooler full of bologna and cheese sandwiches for roadside picnic lunches. It was a big trip in the early 90s when much was big. Big glasses, big hair, big shoulder pads, but even bigger were the surprises that awaited us. Some of the most spectacular scenery that we had never seen before. You know, it was so unlike the rolling hills and the meadows of Lancaster County that we were practically speechless at many turns in the road. And I remember well when we, travel-weary six, exited the van after hours of driving and faced the Badlands of North Dakota. Miracles and wonders, for sure. The heavens praise your marvels, O Lord. Yours are the heavens, yours the earth. You founded the world and everything in it. With the Psalms in our hearts, all that our mouths could utter was, "Wow, God, your creation is awesome." Well, that was nearly 30 years ago, perhaps a more innocent time. We had been well-versed in caring for creation, which to us mostly meant being careful to extinguish campfires, which Smokey the Bear requested, not to feed the wild animals, and memorizing and obeying the motto, you may remember, please, please don't be a litter bug because every litter bit hurts. Well, today, as we reminisce, as we pore over our photo album, the pictures have somewhat faded, but the scenes are every bit as breathtaking. And now we realize that litter is not the only thing that threatens God's amazing creation. We now are aware of the behaviors and the life choices and the systems that threaten the well-being of this precious world. According to the organization New Community Project, which many of us are familiar with, God's creation is under assault as never before. And it's not just our national parks, it's the whole world. The world that God created and God so loves. Did you know there are 70% fewer living creatures on Earth than in 1970, which Jason shared as well, and that includes 3 billion fewer birds in North America alone. Globally, according to NCP, insect populations are dropping at 2.5% per year. We may not like those bugs, but each one serves a purpose in the grand scheme. Ice is melting rapidly in the polar regions, leading to sea level rise. 19 billion pounds of plastic end up in the world's oceans every year, killing 100 million marine mammals and 1 million seabirds. And hear this, the world continues to lose some 20,000 square miles of forest per year, and that translates into a football field of forest off the face of the earth, disappearing every second. And we have learned to consume well. The average American daily uses 2 pounds of paper products, which require 20 pounds of water, 7 pounds of wood, producing 3 pounds of carbon dioxide as a byproduct every day. The average American daily eats 3/4 pounds of meat, which, if grain-fed beef, requires 5 pounds of grain, which, if irrigated, requires 5,000 pounds of water every day. The average American creates 5 pounds of garbage and 4 pounds of hazardous waste every day. The average American consumes 30 to 60 times as much as a person in the poorest areas of the world every day. According to an article in Sojourners magazine, 97% of climate scientists agree that climate change is happening, and it will just get worse if nothing is done. The impact of carbon pollution mars not only the beauty of God's earth, but affects the flourishing of God's people. Many of the poorest among us are suffering from hunger due to scarcity of food, droughts, flooding, and increased diseases caused by climate change. And to use an image from creation itself, our politics on this issue are stuck in the mire of cynicism and inaction, wasting time that we simply don't have. It's easy to lose hope when we are reminded of our unsustainable ways of living, and when we consider the harm we are doing to this planet. The latest news on our environmental crisis is pretty harrowing. We, as a people of faith, have a special relationship with the earth. Confessing God as creator, we accept our responsibility as stewards of this planet. We listen to Jesus when he teaches us not to get wrapped up. Excuse me. When he teaches us not to get wrapped up in consuming material things and to be committed to share the goodness of the earth with all of our brothers and sisters. It is in the words of Scripture that we find hope and wisdom. Consider this passage from Revelation 21, according to the Message. I saw heaven and earth new created. Gone the first heaven, gone the first earth, gone the sea. I saw holy Jerusalem new created, descending resplendent out of heaven, as ready for God as a bride for her husband. I heard a voice thunder from the throne. Look, look, God has moved into the neighborhood, making his home with men and women. They're his people, and he's their God. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death is gone for good. Tears gone, crying gone, pain gone, all the first order of things gone. The enthroned continued, look, I'm making everything new. Write it all down, each word, dependable and accurate. Then he said, it's happened. I'm A to Z. I'm the beginning. I'm the conclusion. From water of life well, I give freely to the thirsty. Here we find hope. Hope for all the world and the assurance that God cares deeply for both the people and for the planet, the earth that we call home. The language of Revelation is famously difficult to interpret and relatively easy to misinterpret. And there have been many ways in the scope of the Christian church to understand this book of Revelation. The genre is apocalyptic literature, much unlike the gospel stories of Jesus and the letters of Paul. Such apocalyptic writing is meant to kind of peel back the veil, to expose the truth, opening life to a new and a deeper understanding. Nearly 2,000 years ago, John received visions and used symbolism to expose the oppressive power at that time, the Roman Empire. John's visions challenged an imperialist view of the world, suggesting a lamb rather than an emperor is on the true throne. And for us today, the challenge is the same. Do we allow powers and systems that claim a carbon-heavy lifestyle and footprint to rule on the throne? Or do we too challenge those powers to make a difference? Of theological interest too is that this passage in Revelation does not have God plucking us off to some magical planet far away, leaving the earth essentially left behind, as we have heard in some popular Christian literature. Instead, this is God's home. The Message expresses it well. God has moved into the neighborhood. God hangs out with us creatures on our own turf, God's earth. Humanity, with our messy, fleshy, beautiful, problematic selves, shares the renewed earth with God. The earth isn't leased to us short term. God has moved in. God has moved in the person of Jesus. And this passage gives us hope that the new heaven and new earth are the transformation and the healing of this earth. And in the meantime, we are called to radical discipleship in caring for this creation. Several years ago, when my husband Dave went to Nepal with the New Community Project Learning Tour, he feared that he would be overwhelmed by what he would learn there. The needs they found at times left him and the group wondering what they could do to help make a difference. But David Radcliffe, the director of NCP, who was here just a few weeks ago, said something very simple. Go home and plant a garden. It will improve the quality of your little corner of the world, and by eating fresh and local, your carbon footprint will be slightly diminished. And so we did. The first year we planted beans and corn, and the next year we added 2 raised beds of asparagus and rhubarb. We have enjoyed the produce from our garden while we feel like we are making a small contribution to reversing the effects of climate change. And just this past week, we added black and red raspberry bushes to our garden. You know, there are so many ways to work at making a difference. Many of you remember Ray Diener. Ray and his family were active members in this congregation for many years. In 2007, Ray was murdered on his front porch right here in Elizabethtown in a home robbery gone wrong. Ray founded the H2O To Go self-served purified water station just a few blocks from here to help provide clean drinking water to this community. Ray also had a passion to provide clean water for those in great need. Ray knew the facts. An estimated 785 million people across the globe lack access to clean water. 25,000 die of waterborne diseases every day. 500 of those are children. Ray gave seed money for the Water for the World project and worked with students of Messiah College, now Messiah University, to solve water problems in developing countries. Just weeks after his death, a team from the college traveled to Nicaragua to install a VWOS, or a village water ozonation system, in a home for girls there. The home was founded to serve girls whose families scavenged in the city dump for a living. This was an effort to provide clean drinking water in a land where it did not exist. These water treatment projects, not only in Nicaragua, but now multiple partnerships in Central America as well as Africa, exist in part through the support of this congregation and the Ray Diener Water Fund. The fund, established in his memory, continues to support water treatment projects and has expanded to meet the needs of many, many children, youth, and adults who might not otherwise have had a chance at life. The efforts continue as Ray's legacy lives on. There is much that has been done, and there is much, much yet to do in caring for all of God's creation. When we all work, when each does even some small part, we can make a difference, whether it's planting a garden or resisting powers that ravage the countryside in pursuit of valuable natural resources, or maybe it's learning about ways to support efforts so that all of God's children drink clean water when they're thirsty. And I've been thinking, for a variety of reasons, this past winter seems like a long one and a dark one, and spring has been a very welcome sight. We've even had our first cutting of asparagus this week. God's gift of creation is all the more real, and so I'm suggesting 2 things. Number 1 is I want to act. I want to do something more, some small step. I'm not sure what, but some step to care for creation. Those who checked out Earth to E-Town at the fairgrounds yesterday got a lot of great ideas. And if we each do one thing now to make a difference, we don't need to be overwhelmed or think that it doesn't matter, because it does matter. Each effort matters, and together we can make a difference. You may have noticed that we're trying to use less paper here at church. We're doing more electronically in order to take a small step to save the environment. And I hope you all have checked out the QR codes in the back of the sanctuary on the tables, also on our website. They are updated each week to provide the order of worship with just a swipe of your phone. The office staff are doing a great job of finding new ways to communicate efficiently and effectively. And number 2, I go back to our out west trip and the awe that our family felt as we experienced the beauty of God's creation. I'd like to say, wow, God, your creation is awesome every day, at least once a day. for the rest of the spring and the summer. One of my favorite authors is Lamott. She's just a bit irreverent at times, and I like that. She suggests that there are really only 3 great words of prayer: help, thanks, and wow. She says spring is the main reason for wow, and she says autumn ain't so shabby for wow either. When we open our eyes, open all of our senses to the awesomeness of God's creation, we are almost speechless, but not quite. We can manage this one syllable: wow. It takes our breath away, and it makes room for new breath. Lamott says that there are lowercase wows, like the times when we sink into something modest that delivers above and beyond. And then there are the uppercase wows, and for us it was the Badlands in '93. In Genesis, when God saw everything that God had created and declared it good, it wasn't a moral judgment, but an aesthetic one. Creation was and is beautiful, delightful, and breathtaking. And we are called to cultivate a deeper sense of awareness and awe, an appreciation of the beauty and the mystery that transcends the mundane. And we are stirred to care for this creation, this precious earth with which we've been entrusted. And we say wow to all of the miracles and the wonders around us, at the curiosity of a child, at the delicacy of a butterfly, at the beauty of a smile, at the setting of the sun, at clean water for a thirsty village. The heavens praise your marvels, Lord. Yours are the heavens, yours the earth. You founded the world and everything in it. Wow, God, your creation is awesome. Amen.